All India Radio. Seithikadambam.
இன்றைய செய்திக் கதம்பத்தில் மத்திய தகவல் ஒலிபரப்பு அமைச்சகத்தின் மக்கள் தொடர்பு அலுவலகத்தின் சார்பாக ஒருநாள் ஊடக பயிலரங்கு சென்னை சாஸ்திரி பவனில் நடைபெற்றது. இந்நிகழ்ச்சியில் கலந்து கொண்டு சிறப்புரையாற்றினார் தமிழ்நாடு மற்றும் புதுச்சேரியின் NSS மண்டல இயக்குநர் திரு சாயிராம். அவர் பேசுகையில்,
National Service Scheme was launched in the year 1969, the birth centenary of Mahatma Gandhi ji, and today we got 4 million volunteers across the country. தமிழ்நாட்டில் மட்டும் 4 லட்சம் வாலண்டியர் இருக்காங்க. Very vibrant workforce. So in every college there is an NSS unit, 100 volunteers per unit. That will be headed by a college professor. They are known as program officers. So those program officers will be implementing our program according to our strategies, which will be communicated from time to time. So it's a very viable force and vibrant force through which you can maintain a linkage with that village. 120 hours every year they have to work, either in the village or in the community. Again, 7 days they have to be in the camp, in the adopted village. Appo avanga full day camp, that's 7 days, so they have to work day and night. So in the morning they would be undertaking some tangible community project, execute that project. In the evening they disseminate socially relevant information to the local village. Neenga when you want to reach out to community, you need a messenger. Every time you cannot go to the community, உங்களால முடியாது. பட் நீங்க NSS ஓட நீங்க லைஸ் பண்ணீங்கன்னா, ஒர்க் பண்ணீங்கன்னா, கோஆபரேட் பண்ணி நீங்க உங்களோட மெசேஜஸை ஈஸியாக டிசமினேட் பண்ணலாம். இட்ஸ் a easy cakewalk for you. And as Sam said, creating an opportunity for the young people to showcase their talents in something, and again you utilizing that outcome to reach out to the community narrow. So the same thing, I am reminded of one particular major experiment we did in 1990s la vandute HIV AIDS பத்தி intervention பண்ற funds வந்தாச்சு. So ultimately they approached all the NGOs. Nobody was willing to talk about sex and sexuality to the village people. அப்ப என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா, they did approach NSS volunteers, workshops பண்ணி அவங்களுக்கு how to prepare the IEC materials. அது we conducted a workshop at regional level, and out of that we asked the volunteers to come out with their own presentations, and we organized a poster competition. They came out with the catchy messages also. Protect you, you can protect the society, like that kind of a thing, you know. No, sex and sexuality cannot be discussed openly in the village. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு situationல young people, they came out with their own ideas, and we had state level competitions, national level competitions. The best posters were awarded, and they were used by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare to disseminate. So எங்களுக்கு பசங்க இருக்காங்க, வைப்ரண்ட் ஃபோர்ஸு. இஃப் ப்ராப்பர்லி தே ஆர் அப்ரோச் அண்ட் டெல் தம் வாட் டு டூ, தே வில் டெஃபினெட்லி ஹெல்ப் யூ. தட் இஸ் த ஒன்லி திங். யூனிவர்சிட்டியில் தேர் இஸ் அ ஹெட், ப்ரோக்ராம் கோஆர்டினேட்டர். நீங்கள் கேஸ் யூ பீப்புள் ரைட் டு அஸ், ஐ கேன் கிவ் யூ த லிஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த ப்ரோக்ராம் கோஆர்டினேட்டர் ஸோ தட் யூ கேன் கெட் இன் டச் வித். ஸோ நீங்கள் எல்லோரும் போய் அவங்கள பார்க்கலாம். அவங்க மீட்டிங்ஸ் நடத்தும்போது யூ கேன் ஆல்சோ பி அ பார்ட் ஆஃப் த மீட்டிங் அண்ட் கிவன் ஓரியன்டேஷன் டு த ப்ரோக்ராம் ஆஃபீஸர் இன் ஒன் கோ. இன்னொரு ப்ரோக்ராம் ஆஃபீஸர் வருவாங்க, you can talk to them what you exactly need. உங்கள் சாங் அண்ட் ட்ராமா டிவிஷன் வந்து ரொம்ப எஃபெக்டிவாக இருந்தாங்க 1990s. whenever we organized camps in Delhi, we used to pick up சாங் அண்ட் ட்ராமா டிவிஷன்லேருந்து கூப்பிட்டு, நீங்கள் வந்து உங்களுக்கு ஒரு சோஷியல் ரெலவெண்ட் மெசேஜஸ் வந்து டிசமினேட் பண்ணுறதுக்கு ஒரு ஸ்ட்ராட்டஜி வச்சுருப்பீங்க இல்லையா. நாங்கள் வந்து we will ask them to enact ஸ்கிட்டோ, ஃபோக் டான்ஸோ, அந்த மாதிரி. ஸோ அது வந்து நீங்கள் இன்னும் பண்ணலாம் வில்லேஜில் கேம்ப் பண்ணும்போது. ரீச்சிங் அவுட் டு கம்யூனிட்டி இஸ் நாட் அட் ஆல் a difficult task. So we are always open to your suggestions. We can coordinate, cooperate, and ultimately the government programs should be taken to the masses. எப்போ வேணாலும் நீங்கள் வந்து NSSஓட வந்துட்டு நீங்கள் கோஆப்ரேட் பண்ணி நீங்கள் என்ன ப்ரோக்ராம் வேணும் பண்ணலாம்.
மேலும் இந்நிகழ்ச்சியில் கலந்து கொண்டு பேசினார் யுனிசெஃபின் தகவல் தொடர்பு நிபுணர் திரு சாம்சுதீர் பண்டி. அவர் பேசுகையில்,
We are all communicators here. Probably we are professional communicators than anybody else. There's public and then us. So we always become a bridge. We become a medium to share very important message. And especially when you're working on behalf of a government or a UN agency like UNICEF, what you're trying to do is you're trying to share very important messages, very important information. And sometimes that could be life-saving as well. So when you're talking about schemes and services and programs, how do you take these schemes and services and programs of the government to the most marginalized child or a marginalized family? How do you inform that person, that family living in a far-reached hut, that there are schemes and services which you can avail? And how do you say it? And which medium do you use? And through whom will you tell that story? So I think you all know the power of communication. So people tell you, give you the information, and you imbibe some of the information, and you try to act. You receive a message and you act. We give out a lot of messages, but if the messages doesn't go, that's one. And if it goes and there is no responsive action, which means our communication has failed. So what we try to do is we need to find efficient ways, effective ways of communicating with people, especially the people who come from different backgrounds, varied backgrounds, and come from varied different social construct, right? And there are people who also don't talk our language. So how do you assess an audience? See, it's also very important what kind of a messengers you're also using. I think that's the topic of this session, right? Collaborating, partnering with influencers, local community leaders, academia, to take your very important message to the people who are in need and most vulnerable. So you also need to choose your messenger, where as a messenger you will not work because you don't look like your audience, you don't speak like your audience, you don't behave like your audience, you and your audience don't come from the same cultural background, you and your audience don't come from the same socio-political background, right? So you need to find somebody who is like your audience, who is culturally like your audience, who is socio-politically like your audience. Some people who audience will respect, where the messenger has a credibility within this audience. So when we're talking about, who should be our messenger, who else can collaborate, we can collaborate with. So I think the whole gamut of the whole exercise what we are trying to do before we actually send out a message or develop a key message to actually understand our audiences. We have diverse audiences. According to the audiences, our key messaging will change. Our approach will change. Our forms of communication will change. The forms of media we use is going to change. The message should be audio, video, print, social media, memes, every kind of message, so that you can reach to your target audience. And you also need to use various forms of communication channels. So we also need to grapple with that as well. So media is not with one person anymore. Anybody who has a phone has a control of the media. How do we reach out to those audience? I think that is also very important. So that is also something we should look at. How do you go beyond and go to the newer audience? I think, we have been talking to the same audience again and again and again and again. But how do you overcome this and go to newer audience who actually require that information? I think that is also something we need to look at. One way of doing that is to reach out to other influencers. Like for example, what we have noticed is that engagement with media, where how do we use or how do we engage with youth in two things, in creating content and also disseminating that content. Youth have been very influential in terms of engage with youth at a local level, strengthen their skills or build their capacities to create content for development discourse.
இத்துடன் இன்றைய செய்திக் கதம்பம் நிறைவு பெறுகிறது.